She was a very calm and quiet person. She loved to see people happy. She did not like arguments. She just wanted a happy life. She wanted, you know, a family.
Banaz Mahmoud was murdered by her own family because they said she'd brought them dishonor.
They killed her there just for being in love. Sometimes I am thinking why love should be so hated.
She told the police she was going to be killed.
People following me, or still now they follow me, and that was the main reason that I came to the police station.
But they let her down. This is her story, told for the first time in her own words.
In the future or at any time, if anything happens to me, it's them.
Who killed Banaz? You're innocent, then who killed Banaz? Who killed Banaz?
If she was in my life would be orange and yellow.
My name is Dia Khan. This film has taken me 4 years to make. I grew up in the same kind of community as Banaz. I wanted to tell her story because I know the pressures women like her face and the threat of violence if they step out of line. But this is also the story of Caroline Good, the detective who was determined that Banaz should have justice. She says Banaz's family tried to wipe out her memory, along with her life.
I've never seen a photograph in that house of Banaz. I guess they don't want to remember her. My take on that was that they simply wanted to erase her from the earth and therefore to be no trace of her.
Caroline and I share a belief. We should remember Banaz because there are many more women who are suffering now, just as she suffered. Banaz was Kurdish and was born in northern Iraq. When she was young, the family came to Britain as refugees from Saddam Hussein.
She was just an ordinary kid growing up in South London.
She had a nickname, Naska, means softness, like delicate, you know, like a newborn lamb.
Bekhal is her older sister. She wears a veil, not because she wants to, but because she has to. She is living in hiding because she testified against her own family.
She had long eyelashes, hazel eyes. She had apple cheekbones. She was beautiful. I mean, you could look at her forever.
The men of Banaz's family held traditional cultural beliefs that their honor and their status in the community depend on their control of the women.
Banaz's father is Mahmoud. He is the eldest of the brothers. There are quite a few Mahmoud brothers living in London, and Ari is a younger brother.
It was Ari. He had all the power over the family because he was a very wealthy man.
Banaz's sister Bekhal was the first to rebel against the family's strict codes. But she soon ran into trouble with her father.
I wasn't allowed to have my nails long. I wasn't allowed to pluck my eyebrows. You know, perfume. I was getting a lot of beatings, I have to say. It was a lot of nasty beatings, you know. I left home when I was just under 16.
In the community Bekhal grew up in, a daughter leaving home can bring shame on the family.
It's about your reputation. It's literally about your face, how you are perceived by others.
If they have a woman that doesn't conform, then that is going to impact upon them because their behaviour reflects not upon themselves, but upon everyone around them, upon the whole collective, the whole family, the whole community.
In 2002, Bekhal says they tried to remove the dishonour of her leaving home. She says her brother asked to meet her.
He lured her to a remote location and he got her to carry a suitcase. Walk along that path in front of me, don't turn around, don't look at what I'm doing.
He just hit me over the head with a dumbbell, a single arm weight. He put his arm around my neck, lifting me off my feet almost. You know, me panicking, I started trying to get myself free from him. I bit his arm, in the bend of his arm. I kicked him, kicked on his knee, and he let go of me. I said to him, look what you're doing. You're actually trying to kill me. And I'm saying this, screaming it out to him, and he stopped for a minute and he started crying like a woman. You know, really, really crying, and he said, I'm really sorry, but I'm the big boy, I'm the big man. After my dad, I have to do this, put a shame to an end. That is exactly his words, actually. And he told me that my dad actually paid him to do this to me.
Bekhal did not press charges and went into hiding.
So all of this was going on in the background before Banaz and what happened to her.
In 2003, at the age of 17, Banaz was married.
It was an arranged marriage to a man that she'd only ever met on one previous occasion. He was 10 years older than Banaz, he was illiterate, and he was literally just off the plane from Iraq.
Her husband took her to live in Coventry. 2 years later, in 2005, she left him and returned to the family home in London. In October of that year, she went to a police station in Croydon to make a statement about the way her husband had treated her. Because it happened in Coventry, she was interviewed by officers from the West Midlands Police. This video has never been seen on television before.
Yeah. So describe your relationship then from the very early stages through to when things started to go wrong for you.
Well, he was just like he was thinking like in 50 years back, like he was a strict husband. Whenever he wanted to have sex, it was just his way, always his way. Like whenever I said no, or he wouldn't take no for an answer, and he would just start raping me and doing what he liked to do. I tried to stop him, but he would slap me or hit me on the back or just pull me by the hair. I just started to like cover my body, like hold on like that. That's it. That's when he said to me he would kill me if I said anything to anyone. I was just 17 there. Then. Some of the times it was in the living room that he raped me, or in the bedroom. I didn't know if this was normal in my culture or in here. I was only 17, so I just let him do what he liked. Whenever he raped me, it was like I was his shoe and he would wear it just whenever he felt like it. He made me believe that my family had loved him more than they loved me, and if I ever told anyone that he would kill me or that I've got no family around me and they're far away from me, so he could do anything with me as he liked. I didn't try to defend myself or anything. I just cried and that was it.
Okay.
I went to visit her and I did say to her, I said, you know, you look run down. And she said, yeah, I'm not enjoying my life. I'm doing exactly what he tells me to do. He was, you know, physically, verbally, emotionally and every other way you can think of abusing her, degrading her. You know, all you're good for is doing, you know, being a housewife. You're not good for nothing else.
So he was getting worse and worse. Some of the times that he had beat me up or he was abusive towards me, I had to write it down in a diary. Mm-hmm. And I have taken some pictures of my body, like when he's been up the bruises and stuff like that, and the clothes that he's ripped off me, but he had got hold of them and he knew that I wrote it down in a diary, so he destroyed them all. But I have got actually one set of photos, and because he had kicked me so much, like in the head, my lips were bleeding, my ears were bleeding, and he had like twisted my hand really strongly there. So one of the bones, it has like stand out from my other wrist. When he kicked my head in, that really affected me. Like now I've got a loss of memory, I can't remember things, and most of the times when I'm cleaning my ears, it bleeds.
That's only one example out of many, many occasions when he was either physically or sexually abusive towards her. So that Banaz kept a secret from her family while she was trying to be a good wife to her husband. But eventually one of her sisters found out, and through that sister the rest of the family were made aware. And he admitted, yeah, I do beat your daughter, but it's because she's disrespectful. And I do force her to have sex, but, you know, only when she says no. So that is something the family found acceptable and sent her back to try harder to be a better wife to her husband.
I left him several times. I went back to my parents, but because for a Muslim female like me, it's very hard to get a divorce, and so I had to go back to him several times. I was brainwashed into like it would be how I would be putting shame onto the family if I got divorced or separated from him. We'd have meetings with my parents, all of the family sit down, because I had no other choice but to go back to him.
After one final incident, she left him for good.
I had a coffee in my hands and I was just watching the TV. He said to me, look at yourself in the mirror, like how you've become so skinny and ugly. And I was nothing but a whore. So straight away with his mobile, I called my mom and I said that I want a divorce, no matter what, by this afternoon. I was really angry, shouting down the phone. And I packed some of my personal things, just like brushes and things, and I left. I think that was the last argument that we had.
She just had enough. But of course, leaving your husband in my culture is not allowed. It's the worst thing to do for a woman.
After leaving her husband, Banaz put herself in even greater danger because she met Rahmat, a man her family did not approve of.
I think Banaz suddenly found a lot of freedom and a lot of joy and a lot of pleasure in meeting Rahmat.
Originally theirs was just a friendship. They started to see each other and it developed into a full-blown relationship.
Rahmat, he's a lovely guy. They had planned to have kids, they had names, they had plans for everything, yeah.
The police recovered dozens of texts between Banaz and Rahmat. She contacted him every morning and every night just before bed. They kept their relationship secret because they knew the community was watching.
Women from communities that have this honour ethos are they're under a form of constant surveillance. It's the eyes of the community, it's the young men of the community that are looking for them, that are keeping an eye out for any behaviour that's untoward, and that they're feeding this back constantly into the family. And it's this kind of constant surveillance that women get used to.
After Banaz left her husband, she was worried that men were following her in the street.
I recognised one face, and he hasn't come to my house ever, but I've seen him on occasions, on weddings and that. And even now, when I go out, I mean, one guy, as soon as I came out of the house, he was following me with a car. I heard someone calling my name in my language. So I turned around and he told me that he should give me a lift and I should go into his car. And I said no and just put my head down and keep walking. So that day he was just following me. People following me. Or still now they follow me. And that was the main reason that I came to the police station.
Okay.
That in the future or at any time, if anything happens to me, it's them.
If ever you're worried or afraid for your own safety, you must contact us straight away.
Yeah.
All right, I don't want you worrying, you know, when we can get somebody out. Even if it turns out it's been nothing, at least, you know, for your own peace of mind.
Now that I'm giving this statement, what can you do for me? Like?
You've given us lines of inquiry that we will need to follow up.
Okay.
Okay. But we will let you know of what's going on as it's happening, really, just so that you're kept informed and up to date of, as to what's going on. Okay.
By going to the police, Banaz was putting herself at great risk.
Monday the 10th of October 2005.
But the investigating officers did nothing to investigate her claims or track her husband down. It took them 3 months just to write up a statement for her to sign. This was one of at least 5 occasions when Banaz went to the police over the threats she was facing.
People following me, or still now they follow me.
They missed all the signs that she was in great danger.
Now that I'm giving this statement, what can you do for me?
Turn this light off. I think it's had the electricity on.
Two months after she went to the police, Banaz and Rahmat were spotted by members of the local community here, outside Morden Tube Station.
This little parade of shops, Banaz and Rahmat were seen kissing each other. It was outside the tube station, which is just down the road here. Very quick to put the phone call into the head of the family. Guess what I've seen your niece doing? And that was what triggered the whole thing. And following that, there was what I would term a council of war at the home of Ari Mahmoud, to which the men of the extended family were invited, and a decision was made there and then.
It was being orchestrated by the uncle, who was a stronger character than Banaz's father, and uncle in turn had said to the younger members of the community, what I want you to do is to kill Banaz.
We're talking about organised crime, men sitting around a table who decided that she must die. That's how conspiratorial it was, that's how deep it was.
Two days after this family meeting, Banaz went to her local police station and made another statement. She said she'd heard her uncle saying she was going to be killed. And a week later, she delivered a letter to the police identifying 5 family members she said were going to murder her. She said she didn't want the police to take action, so they did not investigate any further. It might be hard to understand why Banaz protected her family. But in researching honor killings, I've found many young people who are in great danger don't want to get their family in trouble. A few weeks after she handed the letter to the police, Her father asked her to come to a relative's house for a meeting.
On New Year's Eve, Banaz was tricked. Her father said to her, "You are required to come to discuss the question of your divorce."
He then got her to carry in a suitcase into the house.
He also brought some brandy, and he virtually forced his daughter to drink brandy, obviously in the hope of stupefying her.
He told her to sit on the sofa, look at the television, don't turn round, don't look at what I'm doing. And she did turn around and look at her father, and she caught him coming up on her wearing rubber gloves, training shoes, and she became aware in that instant that she was going to be killed. She knew that she was going to be killed.
But her father left the room again. It gave Banaz a chance to get away.
She managed to escape from the back of the house, and she plunged her hands through the next-door neighbour's window to try and get attention. She climbed over a fence, staggered off up the road, bare feet, bleeding from her hands and wrists, and collapsed on the floor of a nearby cafe. Hospital staff that dealt with her on that night said they've never seen anyone so frightened in their life.
Ramat was contacted, and Ramat had the presence of mind, whilst Banaz was lying on the hospital trolley, to ask Banaz to tell him exactly what had happened, and at the same time he was recording on his mobile what she had to say.
پردەستان هەموو دادرابوونەوە تاریک بوو هەر تەلەڤیزیۆنە کاڵ کرابوو نام سعودی دووبارە شەقش هاتم کارێکی ڕەشی لەبەر بوون کارێکی ڕەشی لەبەر بوون ئێرو بۆ دەستکەشێکی شین لا کەشۆدا بڕۆمە دەرێ ئەیش قسەی دانیشە خەوت ئەوشتان دانیشتمەوە هەتا ئەوتۆ ژوورەکەی دیکە دووبارە ئەزارخانە سام لە دەرگاکەی کرد ئەی دەستە بەکاتن کلینەش پێوە بۆ بەکسێرە لێ کردەوە بێدا هەڵاتن بەخواسیدان.
Again, Banaz told her story to the police.
There was a woman police officer who disbelieved her completely, and she said, "I believed it was just a girl who'd drunk too much, thought she was going to be in trouble, and therefore was making up this story."
The police officer even considered charging Banaz with criminal damage for breaking the window during her escape.
In Banaz's case, there were almost a landslide of mistakes flowing from a lack of understanding and a lack of awareness, some poor policing, which we all recognise now.
After Banaz came out of hospital, she went and stayed with Ramat very briefly, but was then persuaded by her family to come and meet them at that McDonald's in Tooting, to persuade her to come home. Bless her, you know, she did go home. And Banaz had said something along the lines of, you know, if I run away, I'm dead. If I go home, I'm dead. You know, so that sense of absolute futility, which goes some way to explaining her decision to go home.
This is one of the last texts Banaz sent to Rahmat. The next morning, she disappeared. Her family claimed she'd brought them dishonor for loving a man they did not approve of.
Just for being in love. Sometimes I am thinking why love should be so hated.
She told the police her life was in danger.
Anytime, if anything happens to me, it's them.
but they didn't help her. Her family had already tried to kill her once, but she decided to return home. In January 2006, Banaz was reported missing by her boyfriend. Just starting as head of a Scotland Yard homicide team was Caroline Good.
I was on call. It was my first week in charge of that team, and I had a phone call from a local detective inspector who was worried about one of his missing persons.
And my job really was I was the intel sergeant, so my job was to deal with all the intelligence that we gathered.
I was part of Team 16 over at Lewisham, and I became the case officer. I was one of the detective sergeants.
Not a single member of the Kurdish community helped us. We didn't get any positive contribution from the community, and there must have been dozens, if not hundreds, of people that knew what had happened to Banaz. I think we encountered quite a wide scale of attempts and conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Young men who made false statements, people saying that she was alive when in fact she wasn't.
There was lots of work that went on, and lots of red herrings, lots of things where we were looking at things, and it would take us a week to eliminate that line of the inquiry.
In involving themselves in it, that's enhancing their own image within the community. There were over 50 people involved to some degree or another in that murder. I think we found out within a couple of days of the investigation that Banaz had an older sister called Bekhal who was estranged from the family. She wasn't living at the family home.
I had the police knocking on my door, asking if they could come in, and they said to me, "It's about your sister. Your sister's gone missing." So when they said to me she's gone missing and my family don't know, I knew that wasn't true. I knew that was not true, because I just knew in my heart that, it's to do with the family members, the men. I knew it.
In early March, someone from the Kurdish community had found Bekhal, and she had had a phone call to say that she was going to be the next person to be killed. The risk to her was obviously phenomenal. We knew that people had traced her telephone, people knew roughly what area that she was living in, and we actually moved her from house to house to house at one point, trying to keep her safe, to stop people finding her.
The police were now throwing all their resources at the case. But the clue to what had happened to Banaz was already in their hands, and it came from Banaz herself.
This is a letter that was delivered by Banaz to her local police station on or around the 12th of December 2005. In it, she has given details of people that she has heard were going to be responsible for killing her. Numbers 2, 3, 4 and 5 have said that they're ready and willing to do the job of killing me and my boyfriend, and this was said by my uncle Ari Mahmoud while my uncle was on the phone to my mum on the 2nd of December at around 6 to 7 that evening. He also said that he's going to kill me and my boyfriend Ramat, and it's signed Banaz Mahmoud. Just childlike writing, speaking literally from beyond the grave. This is what's going to happen to me. And from that letter, we were able subsequently to identify some of the people that she was talking about, and the letter was accurate in every detail of what she said about these men as Omar Hussein, Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Hama. And those three men are all cousins, so they are cousins of Banaz and they are cousins of each other.
Muhammad Hama was arrested and was charged with her murder.
It was a race against time. Because we had charged Muhammad Hama, there is only a certain amount of time that you can keep someone in custody. And we still hadn't found the body. We couldn't even prove that Banaz was dead, much less that Muhammad Hama had been the one to kill her. So the race was really on to find Banaz's body. And the Mahmoud family was showing no interest in this investigation whatsoever. They weren't ringing us up and saying, have you found my daughter yet? Or just absolutely no interest. Even when we were dragging the lake opposite their house, you know, no one came out or, you know, just no interest whatsoever. It's just such an absolute outrage that this girl is missing and nobody cares about her.
She was a completely innocent victim, and I think those things hit home, and you always do things for the victim's family. There's one thing we always, you know, we always try and serve murders for the victim's family. With this one, we never tried to solve the murder for the victim's family. We tried to solve the murder for Banaz. Because, you know, that she didn't have anybody else. Her family had killed her.
Two Mohammeds followed a really strange pattern of behaviour in that their telephones were showing that they were coming back down to London, toing and froing between London and Birmingham.
Mohammed Hammer's car was a hire car. The GPS, or the equivalent in his car, meant that there was a record of every place it had been. And the police just sent up a helicopter to hover around the area where the cars had been parked.
We got some information about there being a freezer over their grave. And Caroline and I were sitting there when we got this information. She went, we've seen that freezer, haven't we? And I went, yeah. We're sitting there trying to rack our brains, and she suddenly went, that's on the video. Where's the video? So we looked at it, and sure enough, there's a freezer in this back garden that we see from the helicopter that I was up in. So that was it. We were like, that's got to be there. So Stuart and I got in the car and literally drove up there that night.
Once we were inside, we took with us a forensic archaeologist who looked at the ground outside in the rear garden and immediately saw that there had been a disturbance in the earth towards the back of the house.
Buried 6 feet down, her body hidden in a suitcase, the detectives found Banaz.
She was in a fetal position. She was curled up like in a fetal position, which is somehow, I don't know, that somehow for me makes it even worse, that fetal position representing a child, almost like a child in a womb being in that suitcase. And the whole tragedy about this case for me is about that child-parent relationship that's gone horribly, horribly wrong.
I had a knock on the door, and it was my family liaison officer. But she won't speak to me until I sit down and have a friend there with me, and just tears just floated out. I couldn't control myself. I wanted to just be out of my skin, just die. It was, you know, they said to me they'd found my sister buried in a suitcase, and water pipes had broken while they'd put her down there. So it was quite severe, the situation. It was quite horrible. It just shattered me into pieces. Not long after then, my family liaison officer, she brought me pictures of my sister. Worst thing I'll ever go through probably in my life. Seeing my own sister turn into ashes like that, that is enough to turn someone mad.
Three men were charged with her murder, including her father and uncle. 2 other suspects had gone on the run and fled to Iraq. In court, Banaz's sister testified against her family.
I have the maximum respect for Bekhal for having the courage to give evidence against her family, knowing that your family would have you killed for doing it.
Banaz's boyfriend Rahmat also gave evidence. He is still in hiding and was unable to appear in this program.
We know now that Banaz was murdered on the morning of the 24th of January. And from piecing together all of the evidence, the suspects met at Mohammed Hammer's address and then made their way to Banaz's home.
Quite deliberately, her father and her mother left the family home, leaving Banaz on the premises with one of her sisters.
And that meant the coast was clear for the men to come in.
It was Banaz's habit to sleep on the living room floor. There wasn't a bedroom for her. There wasn't sufficient room in the house, so she would sleep on the living room floor. And those three men, Muhammad Ali, Mohammed Hammer and Omar Hussein, came into the house, woken up to find three men bursting into your room and knowing at that point that you're going to be killed.
The police had secretly recorded Mohammed Hammer. He was taped talking about what happened that morning.
He was boasting, blatantly boasting about what those men had done to Banaz that morning, and them laughing and slapping each other on the back, you know, being manly. They were slapping her, fucking her. I have fucked her anally. The bitch's soul was not getting discharged with anything. It took more than half an hour. Was upstairs as well. Was aware. I swear to God I didn't know she was there, fuck her. Ari the bastard lied to us. Ari said there was no one there. Well, I put my leg there on her back, Mohammed on her neck. He made the cord like a hook. I held her hand and said, put it around quickly, and when she heard that, she was terrified. He immediately put the cord around her neck. She was vomiting. Well, he put the wire around her neck and gave it to me. Then I was holding to the cord so tight and stamping on her neck as well. When I stamped on the back of her neck, her mouth and nose were on the floor, and that was in the suitcase. I was saying, let her soul be discharged. I was kicking her head. The soul would not discharge that easily. The wire around her neck, it went deep through the skin. Her soul was not getting discharged. Because he was able to tighten it further, he tightened it around her neck, and it didn't take more than 4 to 5 minutes. Her soul was discharged, and she didn't make a sound.
While making this film, I came face to face with Banaz's father and uncle at a police station.
Do you agree to speak?
No, I'm sorry.
You don't want to tell your side of the story?
I'm sorry.
Who killed Banaz? Will you not agree to give us your side of the story? Okay, come with me now. I'm doing a documentary about your case, and I'm wondering if you want to speak. Who killed Banaz? You're innocent, then who killed Banaz?
You are a liar. Your job is just to lie.
No, I'm saying you did not.
Liar.
By 2007, 3 men were behind bars. But the job was not done. 2 cousins of Banaz, suspected of killing her, had fled to Iraq. No one had ever been extradited to the UK from Iraq before. But the team was not going to give up now.
You know what Caroline's like. She doesn't stop. No one could get away with murder. Banaz was part of us, and it just drove us on.
Omar Hussein and Mohammed Ali had fled the UK before I was even aware that Banaz had been murdered. 2 other people who were actually 2 of the people physically present who killed her and disposed of her body, and to think that they had gone off to Iraq and getting reports back from people saying that they were boasting about their actions in the cafes there, I think you're not going to get away with that. You're just not going to get away with that.
No one could get away with murder. Not when we know who they are.
Let's push the boundaries. It's never been done. Let's get them back from Iraq. Well, how are we going to do that? Don't know.
Omar Hussein was virtually beyond the reaches of the law there because his family are so powerful.
He was being housed with his brother. His brother was quite a senior police officer over there.
And our information was that he was being sheltered.
I think over there a lot of people felt that they hadn't done anything wrong. They believed that because she brought dishonour, then she should be killed.
Eventually, it transpired that he had an argument with one of his brothers, and that brother shot him in the leg with an AK-47, and he was arrested once he was at hospital.
The second suspect, Muhammad Ali, was involved in a car crash and was arrested by the Iraqi police. The team travelled to Iraq to get the courts to extradite the two men.
Yeah, and it took 3 years, but got it done in the end.
We did follow them to the ends of the earth, really. You know what Caroline's like. She doesn't stop, so...
In the last 4 months of her life, Banaz went to the police at least 5 times. After her death, the Independent Police Complaints Commission launched an inquiry into police misconduct. It criticised 9 police officers, 6 from the Metropolitan Police and 3 from the West Midlands, for not doing enough to help her. The Metropolitan Police told us,
"We have learned a great deal since the Banaz case. We have developed working arrangements to ensure effective and professional standards of investigation and support. All London boroughs have a dedicated community safety unit. Awareness training on honour-based violence is also delivered. We are resolute in our determination to keep victims and potential victims safe."
The West Midlands Police told us,
"A range of measures have been put in place which include a policy for the investigation of rape and serious sexual assaults, the introduction of specialist teams, enhanced training in respect of honour-based violence, and closer working with partners and the public. We will continually review policies and procedures to ensure the safety of victims is paramount."
Some people argue that the subject of honour killing should not be tackled for fear of stigmatising entire communities.
There are plenty of people around the country who tell me that they are actually wary of stepping into this minefield because they see it as a minefield. That the moment that they start talking about this issue locally, they will be branded racists. The fact is, it's been going on for centuries across cultures, across religions, all over the world.
Any idea that you can't speak about criminal offences because they take place in a part of the community which is a minority is appalling. I find that quite offensive as a member, if you like, of a minority community. I think it's much better for everybody if these things are brought into the open and discussed.
There are many people within the Kurdish community who are opposed to honour killings, and some who bravely speak out.
I have to say that the majority of the community are against that kind of violence, but this small minority, they had lots of power over the whole community to keep quiet, keep silence, not saying anything, because then they will tell them you betray Kurdish community. We are not betraying them. We are defending the rights of people, the rights of women. We are the true Kurdish people.
According to official statistics, there's 1 honour killing every 4 weeks in Britain. But the Crown Prosecution Service admits the real figures are probably much higher.
In the United Kingdom, we have 12 honour killings a year, there or thereabouts. But we don't even know that. That's, I think, to my mind, an underestimate, because generally when a child goes missing, who is it that reports the child gone missing? The family. But if the family are the reason why the child has gone missing, you're not going to get a report. You're not going to know that child is missing. We have no idea. What we do have is a significant underestimate.
Banaz's family have never commented on this case before, but they contacted us to say,
Banaz was a lovely, caring, smart and kind girl who loved her family and her family loved her. We miss her very much. We did everything to support her in her marriage, and when she decided to leave him, we supported her. Our children are not oppressed and they never have been. It is not true that the family have tried to erase the memory of Banaz. It's the family that tends her grave.
They say it was the police who let her down, not them, and they did cooperate with the murder inquiry. They say that Banaz's sister Bekhal was never beaten or in any danger. They say she was not attacked by her brother.
I go and visit Banaz's grave from time to time, and I'm not sure how many other people actually do that. And I'm not sure if anyone else would ever be able to find it, because that grave was left unmarked for years after the trial. Right, it's round here somewhere. Well, that is new. That is absolutely new, that marker. But I'm pleased that that's on there. That's good. I think Bekhal told me when I saw her the last time that she'd planted some lily bulbs in there, which were her sister's favourite flowers. It's really nice. A bit early for them to be coming up yet, but it'd be nice when they come out.
I feel like my life, it will always be in danger. Safety is something I dream of. Yep, something that I really, really am longing for, but in my circumstances, I don't think that's going to happen very time soon. I'm only doing this in the name of my sister, for my sister, and she will always live on in my heart, in my life.
I certainly felt that we had become surrogate parents, because we didn't feel that she was loved by her own parents, that we took over that parenting role. But and that doesn't mean that we were too close to the investigation. It just meant that we were showing her love and respect, and that someone should love her, someone should care. So we did, and we still do.